Alright, welcome back to the channel, everybody. If you're new here, my name is Ben, and I do film stuff. So today, we're going to be talking about the EOS R versus the EOS R5. So, the EOS R, I've had that camera since I pre-ordered it. It's the only camera I've ever pre-ordered. So this camera has been working for me for years and has worked pretty hard. I really dug into this camera. I know this camera inside and out. I know its strengths, I know its weaknesses, which are plenty, but that's every camera. No camera is perfect. And as much as I really like this camera, it is time for me to upgrade. So recently, I got the R5. And so before I say goodbye to the EOS R and sell it somewhere, I want to just use this time to compare them. So the EOS R5 is clearly a better camera, right? It is twice the camera than the EOS R. It is also twice the price. So if you are in the position where you're asking yourself which camera makes sense for you, then that's where those differences make sense. So let's start with the EOS R. First of all, here's some things I like about this camera. So stills wise, excellent stills camera. It shoots 30 megapixel images, which is great. It's a really great photo camera. Like even now, I would recommend it as a stills camera. The autofocus is pretty excellent in here. It's definitely been surpassed by the R5, but it is very good. On the video side, it shoots 4K up to 30p in 420 8-bit internally, which you can actually do quite a bit with. It's a pretty good image, pretty great file sizes. So, and by that I mean it has a high bit rate. Lots of people don't like the big file sizes, but the high bit rate just looks really great and has a nice richness to it. And there's a lot that you can do with it, even though it's not 10-bit. Now, if you need 10-bit, you can go out from a mini HDMI into a recorder like the Atomos Ninja 5, which I use as a combination, and the image is amazing. It's very good 4K 10-bit. It looks great. Now, one of the downsides about the 4K is that it's a 1.8, 1.7 crop. It's quite a bit. So it's not a full frame 4K. It's definitely APS-C at best. But what actually bothers me more about the 4K in this is that it has pretty sensitive rolling shutter. So anytime there's any jarring movement, you really notice that. So you got to be really stable, really careful with it. It's just really sensitive, and I find that troublesome. But the 1080p on here is excellent. It is a really high quality 1080p. The bit rates are high. They're really nice. It is, again, like an 8-bit 420, but it looks excellent. And if you're doing stuff that's more for like social media, maybe some YouTube stuff, if you're not doing anything for broadcast, shooting in 1080 420 is fine, and you can do a lot with it. You can make it look really good, especially if you know that what you're doing is just going to end up on a phone. Like, that is more than enough. And the 1080-60 on here is really nice. It looks great. Excellent. I've shot so many things in that mode, and I love it so much. Guess there's a bit of an emotional element to this camera. I don't know. I've shot so much stuff with this over the last couple years. Sad to see you go. Singular tear. Now, in terms of ergonomics, it's very similar to the 5D lineup. It's really similar to the EOS R5 and the R6 and the 5D4, 5D3, 2, all of them. They all kind of feel the same. The only thing that really changed with the EOS R system is that they shortened this little top notch here where flashes go on the lower grade cameras. You used to be able to actually get your fingers under between the lens and that hood and actually just hold it. You can't do it with this body, which I loved, but with a cage you can. I don't think it's something that you need, but it's definitely something that I like. Now, one more major thing to compare these two things is this one is a single SD card slot camera. I never had a problem with that, but that's just me, I guess. I don't know. So next up is the R5, and I have not actually held these things in comparison. until just now, but the R5 definitely has more weight and more heft to it, which you may not like. I like heavier cameras. Weight is good when you're shooting video. It takes out a lot of the micro jitter, because the more weight you have pulling down on the camera with gravity, the more it stabilizes everything. So I don't mind a heavier camera. It largely feels like the same camera, but with just a bit more weight, which could be a number of things. It's probably, you know, extra materials for the IBIS, better weather sealing. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's all the extra mechanisms it needs for, you know, more card slots, all that stuff. Yeah, so if I line up the bottoms. Yeah, so the R5 screen is just a little bit bigger. I don't think it's really noticeable on a practical level. EVF is also excellent. Honestly, this camera feels largely like just the EOS R. The big difference, aside from all the internal recording things, is, you know, this joystick and this wheel. In terms of the ergonomics, that is the real difference. There's a number of buttons that are definitely geared more towards the pro level photographer that isn't for me. I'm not going to get into them. My priority is definitely video. So this camera definitely gets a boost for resolution. It's 45 megapixels, which, you know, is what allows for the 8K recording. Now, I haven't pushed the 8K to its full potential yet. I know there's some limitations there. I don't mind. I don't really see myself shooting a lot of stuff in 8K, but I know that it has the capability, and I know that it also has some limitations around that. So knowing that, that gives me a good understanding of what I can actually work with and what I'm actually trying to do. The likelihood of me shooting 8K is quite small at this point, but it is there if I need it. Other great features for this camera is that it shoots 4K up to 120 frames per second. You can shoot a downsampled version of the 8K as a 4K clip. That looks really amazing. It does this all in 10-bit, right? You don't need to go out to a recorder for 10-bit. You can go to a recorder, and there's definitely some benefits. I would say hands down, the image quality in the R5 is better. There's definitely more grain in the EOS R, and there's better sensitivity in the R5, but there's a lot that you can do with the EOS R, and I think, again, you got to figure out what you need. Now let's have a quick look at the price, because I think that's going to determine, you know, what it is you're actually looking for here. So yeah, the R5 is easily twice the camera than the EOS R, but it's also twice the price. So currently the EOS R is about $1,800 US, and the R5 is sitting about $3,900 US. So that's twice the price. I would say if you need a stills camera, but you don't need a ton of features, right? If this is going to be like a B cam, or maybe it's an A cam, but it's mostly on a tripod filming things, very stable. This makes a really good like second camera for interviews, that sort of thing. Then the EOS R, perfectly adequate. There's a lot that you can do with that camera, especially if you're only doing things for social media. Let's say if you're doing things for broadcast, I would only shoot things in the 4K 10-bit. It looks great. There's a lot that you can do with it. But anything under that would be used for, you know, the web, social media, that sort of thing. Anything that's going to be seen on a phone or a smaller screen that looks great. And at that size, the resolution is fine. You don't really need a lot more. Now, the R5 is for someone who, you know, needs stills, needs pretty high quality video, needs that, you know, light form factor, and needs it to kind of be future proof for a while. So for me, I got it because my C200 is my A cam. That's the camera I use for most things. Most of the time, it's great. I wanted a camera that I could do a bit of nice slow motion on, and for stills, and for a B cam for interviews, that sort of thing. So I'm not really expecting this camera to be my A cam, though I know I could make it work if I needed it to. It's definitely more capable than the EOS R, and I know that I'm going to have this camera for 4 years, right? And I'm basing that on my previous cameras. The R5, I'm not expecting to upgrade for a long time. I'm going to be holding onto this camera for a while. So yeah, it's a pricey camera, but over the lifetime that I'm going to be using it, it's going to pay for itself a number of times. And it's still going to hold enough value that I'm going to be able to sell it. I would say if you're on a budget and you need just stills and a simple B cam, get the EOS R. But if you're looking to make a serious investment into a camera that's going to keep you satisfied for the long term, I would say the R5, better solution. This is all based on, I'm in the Canon ecosystem. That is just what I do, so I'm not really even looking at the other systems. And yeah, they're okay, but they're just not what I'm interested in. So yeah, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and tell me which camera you would prefer. I mean, I'm clearly going with the R5 based on everything I've said in this video, but maybe that doesn't make sense for you. Maybe you want the EOS R because it's a whole lot cheaper and it's still a pretty good camera. So let me know down below, and if you like this video, subscribe and follow along. All right, I'll talk to you later. See ya.